Hello and welcome. You're watching Earnings Special on Business Today TV. I'm Sakshi Batra, and on this edition, our focus is on Asian Paints. And joining in to discuss the numbers is the top management now. Amit Syngle joins in. He's the Managing Director and CEO of Asian Paints. Welcome, sir, and thank you so much for taking the time out for this discussion. Well, first up on the earnings, we do know the highlights that the profit has surged about 31% on a year-on-year basis to 783 crore rupees. The consolidated revenue has also risen about 19% odd on a Y-on-Y basis. The board has also approved an interim dividend of 4.4 rupees per equity share as well. However, there's been slight concern on the gross margins declining sequentially, along with both profitability and EBITDA. Could you share with us the key reasons for the same and also help us understand how has been the demand this quarter right ahead of the festive season from both the retail and the institutional side, sir?
Okay, great. Thank you for inviting me on the channel. As we see, I think this quarter was, I think, a little bit tough from the overall environment point of view. We had an extended monsoon, which kind of came into that extent. What we have seen also is inflationary trends in both quarter one and quarter two. Quarter one saw an inflationary trend of almost about 6%, and quarter two saw about 2% in addition to the 6% what we had seen in quarter one. So overall, that impact in the paint industry really is impacting in a sliding manner. So a large brunt of that inflation increase came into quarter two in terms of what we saw in quarter one overall. Vis-a-vis this, we had taken a price increase of about 2% in quarter one and about 1% in quarter two to that extent. So therefore, if you see, there is still a gap between the overall inflation and the price increases taken, because we wanted to balance the overall demand in the market and not really burden the customer so much before the season, which was kind of coming into that extent. And therefore, today that impacted the overall gross margins, which were for quarter two about 35.6. But on a quarter-on-quarter, based on last year quarter, we see there is still a gross margin improvement of about 0.6% in terms of what we see. Although sequentially the margins have come down because of the inflationary trend which has been there. So to that extent, which we see, it is largely the inflation to some extent, which is really kind of catching up on quarter two and really have brought the gross margins down. But I think going forward, what we are seeing a softening in terms of the prices happening. We see a deflation of about 5 to 6% happening on the key raw materials of the paint industry. Crude has come down. Crude derivatives are kind of going down to that extent. The key raw material in terms of monomers, additives, everything is seeing a downtrend to that extent. And given this kind of a downtrend, we see that easily the gross margin would kind of really see a little bit of an upward trend of about 200-300 basis points as we kind of go forward. So I think we are hopeful that as we go ahead in the second half, we will basically come into the band of that 38-40% of the gross margins, which we have spoken for ourselves. So I think this is just a small kind of a blip which we are seeing in quarter two. To that extent, we have no worries going forward that this would kind of really affect the gross margins going forward.
Okay, understood that. But on the price hikes front, since you've already taken, both these quarters, is that going to continue the trend, in the second half as well? And if you could also help us with the quantum of price hike that we could expect.
Okay, so I don't think so. We are looking at really burdening the customer as a leader going forward. We need to kind of really balance the prices, because we've already taken last year a huge increase of about 20% in terms of price increases, almost to that extent. So I think going forward, given the softening in prices, the deflation which we are seeing, we are not kind of looking at any price hikes as of now to that extent. And we think that today the deflation, the raw material prices coming down would take care of the overall gross margins in terms of overall going forward. So I think the gross contribution would definitely kind of improve as we go forward.
Sure. In terms of segments, if you could help us understand how has the performance been, of your home decor business, the automobile, vis-a-vis the traditional businesses as well. Also help us with, what is the current revenue mix between these segments right now, and what do you expect going forward from here in terms of which segments will be the key growth drivers for you?
So overall, if we look at the industrial business, which comprises of the automotive business, which is the auto OEMs and the general industrial protective paints, which are there, I think as a segment has done phenomenally well overall. the growths have been in excess of about 35 to 40% in the quarter two in terms of what we have seen. And so has been the profit growths coming in there to that extent. And I think this is something which has done very, very well overall in terms of what we see. Our international business, basically, which contributes to almost about a 10% of the total business, which is there, has grown in double-digit numbers at 15.5%, and various geographies of Africa, Middle East, South Asia have done pretty well overall to that extent. If we see the home decor market, again, I think the bath and the sanitary piece has done quite well overall.
Okay.
If you look at the H1 market trends, we are growing at more than 40% there, both from a point of view of kitchen and bath. The modular kitchens, especially as a segment, has done extremely well. We see that modular kitchens will continue to kind of grow more than 50% as we look at going forward to that extent. The rest of the home decor, in terms of what we are doing, we are in all the categories, which is furnishing, lighting, UPVC doors and windows, flooring, and lot many other categories. While the business overall is small, we are seeing definitely a strong surge from the point of view of overall growths coming from the sale which is arising from our stores overall. And I think the core painting segment, what we are seeing, definitely good kind of growths coming from waterproofing, wood finishes, and some of the emulsions, which are kind of doing extremely well. So we see, I think these are the core segments, the core areas, which will continue to kind of do well as we kind of at this thing. Because if you look at the H1 growths overall, even in terms of the coatings, we are sitting at about a 37% growth overall in terms of value terms, and about a 24% growth in terms of volume terms. Correct. So I think very, very strong growths there, very strong profit growths overall to that extent in the H1 in terms of what we see. And therefore, we are seeing the same kind of energy carrying on to in quarter three, and overall demand conditions look fairly good.
Okay, and internationally, if you could help us with your presence, which has been widening right there. Any new markets that are on your radar?
No, as of now, we are concentrating on the core markets which we have in Africa, South Asia, and Middle East to that extent. And I think we are looking at increasing our depth there in terms of what we can do, so that today we can possibly look at growing our numbers in a very strong fashion in some of those markets. So as of now, concentrating on the existing markets and not looking at any new markets there.
Sure. So domestically, you continue to be a dominant player right there. I wanted to understand in terms of market share, despite, big companies like Grasim announcing their plans to enter into the paint business. How are things going to be, changing right there? And do you expect to sustain your market share?
See, overall, I've been giving this commentary for some time now. Okay, I don't think so. We need to get obsessed about any player entering the market and so on and so forth. This is a phenomena which we have been seeing for the last 2 decades. We have seen international players with very, very deep pockets entering the Indian market and really kind of splurging money in the overall market to that extent. We see that Asian Paints today has a very, very strong brand equity in the market. We also have a very strong supply chain and a distribution efficiency in terms of what we bring onto the table. More than that, we have strong innovation and technological platforms in terms of which gives us differentiated products in the market to that extent. And given this kind of a thing, we really think there is, we are not really bothered about anyone coming and entering this market overall to that extent. And what we see very clearly is that today the market is about 65,000 crores today. In another 2 years, 3 years time, this market will go to about 75,000 crores. And if there is a new player which is even doing a business of about 2,000, 3,000 crores, it will be less than 4% of the share of the total market. So you can very well imagine for yourself if that player really makes a difference in the market to any of the players who are coexisting and are strong in this market today.
And now, in the current quarter, we are right ahead of this festive season to begin with. What kind of demand are you expecting from both metros, non-metros, urban areas, rural areas as well? If you could just expound upon that.
So overall for us, the rural demand in quarter two has been strong. In fact, the rural T3, T4 tier cities have done much better as compared to the metro T1, T2 cities to that extent. Going forward, we see that trend continuing because The monsoons have been pretty good overall to that extent, while there are some small deficits in some of the states as we see it. But overall, the consumer sentiment in the rural cities should be good, and given the good monsoons which have augured this time around. We also see a very strong wedding season which is there, because a lot of weddings got postponed due to COVID in the last about 2 years to that extent. So a good wedding season augurs good painting, which is going to happen definitely. We see the B2B sales, which is the project sales, also doing well, because construction is picking up strongly. Real estate is going up to that extent, despite the interest rates going up overall to that extent. So we see that that business definitely will kind of do well overall to that extent, as we see in terms of going forward. So given all this, I think overall the demand conditions will be fairly good in Q3 as we see it. And we think at Asian Paints, the trajectory which we have been maintaining for so many quarters of double-digit volume growth, I think should continue.
Okay, but what about the impact of inflation and the depreciating rupee? Will that have any sizable impact on demand, or will it be just, non-mentionable?
So as I said that, there is a deflationary trend in terms of the raw material prices we are seeing. So we are not expecting inflation really coming in Q3, and the past effect of inflation would possibly not be there in Q3 to that extent. So yes, I think the depreciating rupee can a little bit spoil the party overall in terms of going ahead as we see it. But I think inflation is a bigger piece in terms of which I think is going to be dealt strongly as far as Q3 is concerned. And with that as a background, I think it should not kind of come in the way of the demand, because market will not see any price increases if the deflation is in terms of what we are thinking happens in the market.
Okay. In the end, you also announced that, Asian Paints will be setting up manufacturing facility for vinyl acetate ethylene emulsion as well, vinyl acetate monomer in India, and also the cement manufacturing facility. If you could give us a sense of, where are we going towards? What can we really expect? How will this translate into the books as well going forward from here? Any kind of fundraise that you would be looking forward to, while you set up these facilities? Help us with all of those details.
So overall, we think, I think the cash flows at Asian Paints are pretty good in terms of supporting all these initiatives of newer acquisitions, the backward integration, as well as our normal kind of increase in terms of capacities going forward. So we've already laid out that plan, and I don't think so that it kind of really affects the cash flows going forward. We will obviously look at energizing any debt which we can take from the market if it really benefits in terms of international markets outside India to that extent, which would be there. But by and large, I think from the point of view of cash flows, there are no issues. The second area is that these are very strong technologies. The VAM and the VAE technology are restricted only with some global players to that extent. This is the first time we are getting this technology in India. And I think it gives us a sizable cost advantage, because we are already importing some of these emulsions from the market from global players. So overall, it kind of gives us a very strong advantage, not only in terms of cost, but in terms of a differentiated product, which we can give to the consumer. A lot of innovations are possible in terms of durability, scrub resistance, stain resistance, the type of properties which will come in. And I think going forward, these are the two big areas it will kind of boost up at Asian Paints from both from the customer and from the cost end to that extent. Even in white cement, if you see, white cement is a key ingredient in many products which are powder paints at Asian Paints, including some undercoats, including textures, construction chemicals, tile adhesives, and so on and so forth. So we think that looking at white cement, which is a strong contributor from a point of view of a raw material which comes in, I think it will be definitely much helpful to us from a point of view of cost, as well as variations in terms of the white cement we can bring to suit our products, which today you can't do because you are purchasing the standard white cement in the market. And given the location, UAE, we are also looking at strong incentives which the government has announced in the FTA scheme, where the duty in terms of the white cement would kind of really virtually become zero in the next about 10 years overall going forward. So I think these are big benefits in terms of what we are seeing, which kind of brings in. And the third area we are investing in, again, the next gen nanotechnology, which also kind of boosts the the overall technology at Asian Paints. And I think technology is the big root in terms of what we are looking at, differentiating ourselves in terms of very, very differentiated products in the market, which makes the leader really stand out.
Okay, understood that. Well, on that note, thank you so much, sir, for being with us and sharing all the fine print of the earnings. All the very best for the next few quarters. And we will hope to catch up very, very soon with you on those earnings as well. And the season's greetings to you from the entire team of Business Today TV.
Thank you. And season's greetings to all your members and your viewers from Asian Paints.
Thank you so much, sir. Have a good day.
Thank you.
If you like the video, do like, comment, share and subscribe.